What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Commander Ad Populum. Commander for the people, by the people, for the people. My name is Ryan. This is episode 44, and we've got a jam-packed one today. This is actually the second time I've tried to record this. I had a catastrophic computer crash. I lost a bunch of what I was working on, so this is round 2. And I've already had an extremely eventful day. Trip to the children's hospital with my little guy. He was spinning around in the living room and then decided to take off across the house and kind of wobbled because he was dizzy and smashed his head directly into the corner of our counter and split his head open. The gash was so deep that I could actually see into it. So we went to the hospital, got it all glued up, and got some Burger King. So we're home now. I'm recording, getting over the laryngitis. It's all good. Before we get to any of the actual show topics, huge thank you to FusionGamingOnline.com. They are the official sponsors for Commander Ad Populum. They are there for all of your gaming needs. And of course, you can find Commander Ad Populum online at themanabase.com alongside all of Fusion's other sponsored content. Another big thank you to all of the Patreon supporters at patreon.com/cadpopcast. You guys make it all possible. Big shout out to Josh Edwards, our newest patron. I had a show in the bank last week, so I didn't get to do his thank you, but I do appreciate the support. Welcome to the CadPop family. Of course, we've got Discords, lots of great benefits to becoming a patron, and of course, I very much appreciate the support. If Patreon isn't quite right for you, of course, you can head on over to Twitter at CadPopcast. Follow the Facebook page. Shoot me an email, maybe a show topic, maybe something you'd like to hear me talk about or get my thoughts on. cadpopcast@gmail.com. And of course, just share the show or start a conversation at your LGS or with your play group. I'd love to hear about what you guys are talking about. If it's Magic general interest topics, if it's Commander related, if it's technical, if it's community, whatever it is, let me know. Maybe it's something I can feature on the show. Today, we are going a little bit less magic-y and going a little bit more community-y. And I'm going to do some call-outs to some of the members of the Commander Ad Populum or greater Magic community and some of my content creator friends. I'm going to do some call-outs in the CadPop community section on Twitter. So keep an eye out for that because I want to bring us all together. I want to essentially raise the ground floor of our community a little bit by giving us all a reason to offer help or let each other know that we're all kind of going through whatever we're going through together. So that's what today is going to be about. And I have a story that I'm going to tell you. This is friend of the show, listener, patron of the show. His name's Tim. This is his story. And Tim was actually just on Commander Social, episode 38, alongside another friend of the show, Ginger Joe, of course, Max Crandell, and then Zach and Ryan on Commander Social. So big shout out to them. Listen to episode 38. They talk about how Magic brought them together, and they were celebrating Magic. They were celebrating their friendship, and that was at GP or Magic Fest, Zach's big-ass house. That's what they called it. And they all got together over Valentine's Day weekend in Texas and just jammed games and hung out. And Dan Kraus was there too. Sorry, I forgot you, Dan. I'll tag you as well, of course, because I'm sure you're going to have something to offer on what I'm talking about here today. So I'm going to tell Tim's story first, and then I'm going to loop it back around to how we can all help each other in the community. So back in 2007, Tim says he started working in the software development industry, and between 2007 and 2015, he started doing public speaking and seminars to teach people or to talk about the work he was doing. And Tim said to me, he's always been a big guy, but it wasn't until July of 2012. So it sounds like he's been doing this speaking thing and working in his job for 5 years. It was at July of 2012, he topped out at 615 pounds. That's big. And it was July of 2012 that Tim says he reached his breaking point. He's up on stage, he's doing a seminar, and he realizes that he can't stand for the entire duration of the presentation. He had to sit, by which his laptop, when he was sitting, was blocking his face. He couldn't see the people he was talking to, and the people that he was talking to couldn't see him. And he said that this was his breaking point. He went home, talked to his wife, and they started on a diet and exercise plan that enabled him to lose a bunch of weight. And we'll talk about that in a second, but I want to go back and focus on he decided. He went home, he reached some breaking point, some scale tipped, and he said, I'm deciding that this is what I'm going to do. And that is, I talked about it a couple weeks ago, that's the hardest part. But as soon as you can overcome the hurdle of deciding, then everything just gets out of your way because you've decided that this is what you're going to do. Once you decide and nothing can stop you, then you're just going to do. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that that's the direction that I approach things from when I talk about what I'm going to be talking about today. So Tim decided. Him and his wife started this journey, and in the first 3 months, he lost 90 pounds. That's almost a pound a day. That's pretty incredible and very atypical. That isn't a normal result. I know in Canada, Health Canada says that healthy weight loss when you're trying to lose weight is a pound a week. Of course, before you start on any weight loss journey or diet, of course, you have to talk to everybody that you should be talking to, especially if you are heavy. Make sure you are healthy enough for exercise. Make sure the diet is going to give you the proper nutrition that you require for your age, your weight, your gender, all those things. Of course, talk to your doctor, your pharmacist, your dietitian, your physical therapist if you're seeing one. Make sure whatever you're embarking on is safe and healthy for you to do so. So I'm sure Tim did that. 90 days, he loses 100 pounds. He's working out 5 days a week. And in the first few months that this is all happening in, the change was so remarkable that his bosses, the CEO and the president of the company that he worked for, they noticed. And I'm sure it was more than just a physical change that was happening. I'm sure that there was a psychological and emotional change. I'm sure his demeanor and attitude at work improved immensely. I'm sure that his productivity at work would have gone through the roof because he's feeling good and he's enjoying what he does and he's healthier. So all good reasons, in addition to losing the weight, all good things that have come from this. But his bosses get on board to the point where they want to help him with what he called as bariatric surgery. I'm not going to get into it, but it is a weight loss procedure. And they helped him on this journey, and he lost another 100 pounds. So this is the first time in his life that he's been in the 400s. Then he said 2 years ago was the first time that he ever got into the 300s. He lost another 100 pounds. So this is a guy that's lost half of his body weight. The functional equivalent of 2 people have fallen off his body through diet, exercise, dedication, hard work, deciding that this is going to be the life that he wants. But... and it does have a happy ending, but I am going to insert a but in here. Tim says through his journey, he opened up a game store. And in doing this, he actually let I'm going to call it the gaming culture, the gaming lifestyle. He let it creep back in. He's working 16-hour days because now he's got 2 jobs. He's eating the junk food. He's getting probably the sugary drinks, the caffeinated things that you use to stay awake, like the full sugar drinks, the energy drinks, what have you. And the weight started to come back. And this is where I'm going to start to tie it in. The weight started to come back because the gaming culture, the lifestyle that surrounds the things that we do socially is sort of unhealthy. It is sedentary. We're sitting down doing it. We usually have sugary drinks, snacks. Typically, they're not that healthy. Sometimes there's alcohol consumption. Again, another thing that is generally regarded as unhealthy when you do it in excess. So the weight's coming back. But through some gentle nudging and encouraging from his family members, his friends, his tight-knit community that he's a part of, it's his goal this year, by the end of 2020, to get to 350, which I think is remarkable because that's half as much as he used to be. That's incredible. So congratulations, Tim. Good job. Continue fighting the good fight. I think that's a good message that I can say to people is whatever you're going through, whatever struggles it is, continue to fight the good fight and make decisions that are going to just make the world get out of your way. And I mentioned the CAD Pop community section. I want to take this time to call out a few people that I know are going to like this type of challenge. I'm talking about the people that are already a member of my community, the Ginger Joes, the Aarons and the Amy's, the Commander Social guys, the CMDR Central guys. I'm going to tag them all in the spotlight for this episode, and I would like for them to open up a little bit to the community. I want everybody involved to let everybody else out there know something that you're going through, something that you're struggling with, something that you have a goal to accomplish. And I want you to let everybody know something that you're proficient at or something that you have accomplished, something that you have done that you're proud of, that maybe somebody can read that, see it on Twitter or Facebook, what have you, and maybe be inspired or maybe reach out and ask for help. Everybody's into something outside of magic, and it can be magic related, but everybody's into something. Everybody's good at something, whether it's your work, whether it's something that you do as an extracurricular. Maybe it's some kind of journey you've been on, like Tim, a weight loss thing. Maybe you've had problems in the past with addiction, and now you're a recovering addict of something, and you can help somebody, even just by them reading it to see that you have overcome this thing. Maybe it's going to help them. So that's what the community spotlight for this week, this episode, is going to be. And I hope that in doing this, we can all come together as a tighter knit community and raise that ground floor of our community. This is going to help us share. It's going to help us get tighter. It's going to help us hold each other accountable, right? Give each other that gentle little nudge like Tim got from his wife or friend saying, you can do it. Hey, just because you did it yesterday doesn't mean you have to do it again today, right? You can change, you can be different, you can be better. So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I know that's not real magic related, but it is a member of our community that we're talking about that did do this great thing that inspired me to want to share the story and spread the word, and hopefully somebody else will do something equally amazing. And like I said, it doesn't have to be magic related, even though this is a magic cast. I was just kind of thinking, like, we do this all the time with magic, right? Where it's like, hey, here's my deck list. What would you cut? Or how many lands do I need to run? Or what do you think about this combo? And we share, or we post this deck list and say, hey, look at this thing. I just won my pod with it, or I just made top 8 with this list, right? Like, check out this cool thing that I did. Other people pick up that list, and then they want to do the thing that you did because it was fun or cool or interesting, right? So this is kind of the same thing. It's just with real life stuff that actually matters, stuff that is going to make us better, healthier, stuff that's going to bring our community together more. So that's that. That's the piece. I'd like for it to be an ongoing thing. Whenever somebody has something that they've overcome, share it. And then share something that you're struggling with. Maybe somebody will read it. Maybe somebody will engage with that and help you, give you that gentle nudge, hold you more accountable, whatever it is. So again, that's going to be the CADPOP Community Spotlight for episode 44. Check it out on Twitter at CADPOPcast. And of course, Commander Ad Populum on Facebook. And with that, let us now finish the set retrospective for Odyssey block. Today, we're going to look at Judgment just after this. I like this set. This is a cool set. I don't really have a super strong handle on how this block's story ended because I was a little bit more concerned or focused on playing with the cards, but I do know some of the characters. I know that it was May 27th, 2002 that this set was released, and if Torment was the black set, this set was the white and green set, where there was a little bit of a skew back towards white and green, like the opposite of black, of course, to help balance the standard environment. And you can see that with the lands that are in this set. And a couple of the cards, like there was a cycle that there was 5 of a thing, white and green got an extra 1 of those things. So we're going to talk about, that's the Incarnation Cycle. Of course, Judgment continues the flashback and threshold and nightmare mechanics. Of course, flashback, you can cast it from your graveyard, then exile it. Threshold is an added ability or extra ability on a card if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard. And then the nightmare mechanic is like that O-ring style effect where it enters the battlefield and does something, leaves the battlefield, it does the opposite thing. And we're going to see the most prolific and famous and powerful version of a nightmare mechanic in Judgment. So we'll talk about that for sure. Another thing that was unveiled in Judgment is the wishes, or the sort of the original versions of the wishes. And they were a cycle of cards, instant or sorcery, that allowed you to go outside of the game and pick a card and bring it back into your hand or somewhere. And those were kind of tweaked and were given errata to say that you go into your sideboard, but in Commander, we don't have sideboards. So of course, we don't play these cards, and that is an official rule that they just don't work. Of course, house rules exist though, so if you did have a wish board, they call them, they can be house ruled, but I don't play with them. I've been asked about wish boards in the past, and I've always said no. Like, if it's gonna be cute or funny, like, I don't know, I'm not personally interested in that, because I want to build decks and play games that people have used sound deck building principles in mind. That's why I don't like the silver bordered cards. That's why I don't like the funny or cute type of things. That's why I don't like coin flipping. And then of course the flip side of the wishes is you just want a wish board so you can tutor for exactly some very broken or degenerate type of thing. Some combo piece, some mass land destruction spell in red, for example. I'm just not into that. Just build it into your deck and build a better deck. Don't give yourself that free out. So the wishes, they don't really work. On to the legendary creatures. First up, sort of, is Commander Isha. Commander Isha. Sure. A 2/4 bird soldier. Shout out to Zach, Commander Social, bird tribal. For white, 2, flying, protection from creatures. Good creature, not a very good commander. If you want to do Voltron, there's better options. But like I said, bird tribal's good, soldier tribal's good, protection from creatures, good. It is a good card, just not a very good commander. Jessica, Warrior Adapt. This was Kamal's sister. We saw Kamal in Odyssey. She's a 3/1 for red 2. First strike, haste, tap 2, deal 1 damage. It goes in your Pinger deck. It goes in your story deck, your Kamal deck, your barbarian tribal deck, but again, not something that we're super interested in playing. I think she turns into like Phage, and then Phage turns into Corona. We'll see them again in the Onslaught block. Thrist, Nantuco, Primus. This is a 5/5 for green 5. You can go green, tap, target creature gets +5/+5 until end of turn. He's an insect druid, if that matters. I think if you want to give something +5/+5, there's better options. There's better green commanders. There's better big stuff green commanders, like look at the new Ronus that doubles creature's power when it enters the battlefield, that kind of stuff. So I think this guy's just fallen by the wayside, especially at 7 mana. We're all definitely here, though, for Balthor the Defiled. I have this deck. It was maybe the 4th or 5th commander deck I ever built, maybe the 3rd, and this guy shows up to ball. He's at 2/2 for black 2, zombie dwarf, sure. Zombie is relevant. Minions get +1/+1, so minions are relevant if you wanted to go down that route. But the real ability he does, or the reason you play him, is black, exile him. Each player returns all black and all red creatures from their graveyard to the battlefield. That is each player that is red and black, not just black. So sometimes your opponents are going to get their stuff back, but we're playing the mono black zombie deck. We are probably going to get more and better quality stuff than they are. So this card has been going up in value for a while. Of course, it saw a little bit of a spike with Sir Conrad alongside things like Living End, Living Death, Twilight's Call, what have you. And another card that was in Judgment that also saw a price spike when Sir Conrad the Grim was printed in Throne of Eldraine. So we're going to talk about that card coming up too. This is an awesome card. You can reanimate your whole black team, and you know, there might be a Grey Merchant of Asphodel in there. There might be a Kokusho. There might be a Massacre Worm. You get them all back at the same time, you're going to have a good game. So super cool card. Love it. Play it, even in the 99. Onto the set proper, we've got some cool cards in here. Lots of cool art, lots of real weird abilities. There's lots of combat trick abilities, lots of threshold abilities. So if you're into any of those things, of course, check out Judgment. Don't overlook cards just because they're old or just because they were not thought of as traditionally good. I like, first card up here, I like Chastised. It's an instant for white 3, destroy target attacking creature and gain life equal to its power. It costs 4. But that's a pretty good life swing. If you thought you were going to take 10 and then instead of taking 10, you kill their creature and gain 10, that's good. It's a good time. Talk about Guided Strike. I think Feather players know Guided Strike. If you play Feather or 5-color Zadahedron Grinder, Guided Strike, look it up. It says draw a card on it. We've got Prismatic Strands. That's a fog for a particular color of creature, and you can tap 2 untapped white creatures you control to flash it back. So we saw flashback costs that weren't necessarily mana costs. We had to do something to flash a spell back, and that essentially makes for free spells. So if you want to do graveyard stuff, look at flashback spells that don't have a mana cost, and you'll find free spells there under certain conditions. So cool little addition to the flashback mechanic. We've got Solitary Confinement. That is an enchantment for white 2. At the beginning of your upkeep, sack Solitary Confinement unless you discard a card. Okay. Skip your draw step. Okay, my ears are perked up. You have Shroud. Prevent all damage dealt to you. Ooh, that would go in my Estrad deck when I try and hurricane the table for 40. I just wouldn't die. Pretty cool card. I like it. There was a cycle of enchantments that were alternate win cons in Judgment as well. The first of which is Test of Endurance. That is, if you have 50 or more life, you win the game. So not super hard to do in Commander. If you just need to gain 10 life and then wait to your upkeep, that's pretty cool. There was one of those in each color, and they all required some other form of winning the game. Now, the cycle I was talking about that had the extra white and the extra green card, those are the Incarnations. And the first one is named Valor. So it's a 2/2 for 4, and I think they were all 2/2s for 4. Maybe the green one was a 3/3, regardless. 2/2 for 4, first strike, and as long as Valor is in your graveyard and you control a plains, creatures you control have first strike. That's how they all worked, or the main cycle, that's how they all worked. The blue one, in your graveyard, and you have an island, your creatures have flying. The black one, Swamp Walk. The red one, Haste, that is anger, that's a commander staple, along with Wonder, the flying one. And then the green one was, in your graveyard with a forest, your creatures have trample. So they were all there, they're all good, and the extra white one was called Glory. It was a 3/3 for 5 with flying. You could pay white 2, creatures you control gain protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and you can only activate that ability if Glory is in your graveyard. I know that I've lost to this card because I either forgot that it was there, or it's the person who had it in their graveyard just like made 3 of his creatures have protection from my colors, and he just swung in and killed me. Or you can never get an attacker in because they'll block and give it protection from the creature it's blocking. So super powerful card, but it is mana intensive and it does have to die. Of course, the other one was called Genesis. That's the green one. And that one, during your upkeep, you could pay green 2 and get a creature back from your graveyard to your hand, and you could only activate it if Genesis was in your graveyard. So those are the extra ones. Again, this is the green and white set, so I thought I'd mention them. On to blue. Lots of cool art, lots of cephalids. Those are those like water squid looking creatures. But before we talk about any of those, I want to talk about a card called Keep Watch. Shout out to Dana Roach from Commander Central, because I know he plays this card, and I'm wondering why people are sleeping on it, because it's an instant for blue 2, draw a card for each attacking creature. Full stop. They don't need to be attacking you. They don't need to be your creatures. They could just be player 2 attacking player 3 with 3 creatures. Draw 3. If you're going to run a card that says draw 3 on it, or draw 2 on it, consider Keep Watch instead, because that could also be a draw 8 or a draw 10 if you're playing against a token player. Super cool card. Next up, I want to talk about Spelljack. This is a counter spell that you can actually cascade into and still have it work. So it's a instant for blue 3, counter target spell. If that spell is countered this way, exile it instead of putting it into its owner's graveyard. You may play that card without paying its mana cost for as long as it remains exiled. So you can cast your commander. If it's, let's say it's Maelstrom Wanderer, he gets cascade. Let's say then you cascade into Spelljack. You can target the Maelstrom Wanderer that's still on the stack with your Spelljack. It'll get countered. Then you can cast it again for free after you still have your other cascade to resolve. And then you can cascade again. So you could get 3 cascades if you Spelljack your Maelstrom Wanderer. So I played that in Maelstrom Wanderer way back in the day, and it was great. 6 mana, counter your 7 drop or bigger is also good, because then you're getting value, or you're gaining tempo advantage on the person playing the big thing. So I super like that card. I think people a little bit sleep on it because it's a 6 mana counter. It's a lot to leave open. Moving on, I just want to do a quick shout out to Cabal Therapy for all the Legacy players out there. I want to talk about now that card I said spiked when Sir Conrad the Grim was printed, and that is Morality Shift. So that is a sorcery for black 5. There's your 7-drop that I was talking about. Exchange your graveyard and your library, then shuffle your library. Essentially what that means is you pick up your graveyard and then you flip your library face up into your graveyard and then you shuffle your little graveyard and put it back, and you put those 4 or 5 cards that were in your graveyard, you make that your library. And then what you can do is Balthor the Defiled or Twilight's Call and just kill the whole table. Super cool card. There's only I can only maybe think of 2 instances in all of Magic where you do that flip. Maybe if you count Doomsday, there's 3. Super cool card, 7 mana, and then, if they counter whatever you're doing, you've got like this tiny little library. I definitely have Morality Shifted when everybody was tapped out and I had 0 cards in my graveyard and then immediately won. So that's the kind of thing that you can do with that card. Stitch Together is a sorcery, black, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. If you have Threshold, that is 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you return that creature to the battlefield. So it's a reanimation spell on a sorcery. That's cool. Sutured Ghoul, you could Morality Shift and then go right into Sutured Ghoul, where for black 4, he's a star trampling zombie, enters the battlefield, exile any number of creature cards from your graveyard, and Sutured Ghoul's power and toughness are equal to the combined powers and toughnesses of those creatures, so he could be huge. Now, Red and Judgment was a little bit weird. They had these spells that gave your opponents a choice, and they were all bad choices for them. So these cards did see some play, but don't let that fool you, because in Commander you have 3 opponents, all of which can kind of decide who can do the thing and have it affect them the least. The example I'm going to use is Browbeat. So it's a sorcery for red 2. Unless a player has Browbeat, deal 5 damage to them, target player draws 3 cards. So, of course, we're going to target ourselves. And then our opponents can decide, hey, does anybody want to take 5 so Ryan doesn't draw? And somebody probably is going to. Breaking Point was like this. Dwarven Driller was like this. Dwarven Scorcher was like this. They all gave, like, destroy a land or deal 6 damage to something. Or, something that wasn't as bad. And they always take the one that's not as bad. So maybe in a theme deck or a chaos deck or a choice matters deck, they can survive in there. But other than that, I don't see any reason to play these cards. The red card I do want to talk about is the most famous of the nightmares, or the Gorgers, if you will. This prefix on naming the nightmares. One of them was Gorger, and this is World Gorger Dragon. It's a 7/7 flying trampler for red 3. Enters the battlefield, exile all the permanents that you control. When it leaves the battlefield, return all those permanents to the battlefield. So what you do is get your World Gorger into your graveyard. There's a myriad of ways to do this. The most contemporary example, of course, is Anya Falconwrath, where you can tap her to discard a card and then you draw a card, or whatever she does. You get your World Gorger into your dragon, into your graveyard, and then you cast a Animate Dead or a Dance of the Dead or a Necromancy on it to enchant it and reanimate it. When it enters the battlefield, it exiles all your permanents. And of course, it would exile the Animate Dead that's enchanting it. All those enchantments say when they become unattached, sacrifice the creature. Then you'd sacrifice your World Gorger, and its return everything to the battlefield ability would trigger, and you would return your Animate Dead and all your lands and all your permanents. That Animate Dead would enter the battlefield, it would reanimate World Gorger Dragon, and then it would exile everything. Then when it exiles, then when the World Gorger Dragon dies, because you have to exile all your permanents, you'd return all your enchantments and your lands again. And you could loop World Gorger Dragon and all of your lands and mana rocks in and out of the battlefield infinity times until you have infinity mana, and then you just reanimate something else in your graveyard, or Animate Dead something else in your graveyard instead of the World Gorger Dragon, and you have infinite mana. So that's the most powerful broken Gorger nightmare creature, and it saw playing Legacy for a while. It still sees playing Commander as like a Rakdos deck finisher, or maybe a Jund finisher. I know I played that combo in my Vivictus Asmodi deck. and I played it with, Dragon Horde, where if you control a dragon, you can tap it to draw a card. So I would respond to the World Gorger Exile trigger by drawing a card, and in addition to making infinite mana, I would also draw my whole deck, and that's how I won. But I don't play combos like that anymore. I'm just saying they do exist. On to green, we've got another cool alternate win con thing, Epic Struggle. This is the other one of these that I've played. That's why it caught my eye. This is green 2 for an enchantment at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control 20 or more creatures, you win the game. And of course, I played that in my Saproling deck. The red one, I think you won the game if you flip 10 or more coins. The black one was 20 or more creatures in all graveyards. And the blue one is 250 cards in your library. So we can't really do that one, but they're fun. Shout out to Exoskeleton Armor. Gives the enchanted creature +X, where X is the number of creature cards in all graveyards. So it kind of turns your creature into a White of Precinct 6 or a Sewer Nemesis or a Abomination, whatever that Dimir colored one was. Makes your stuff big. That's a cool card. Shout out to Sylvan Safekeeper. This is kind of a CEDH card. It's a 1/1 for green, Human Wizard. You sacrifice a land, target creature you control gains Shroud until end of turn. So you could use this to protect your commander, your combo piece, or just to get lands into your graveyard. A sack outlet if you're playing like a Titania deck or whatever, if you're maybe not playing CEDH. Or maybe a Muldrotha deck might want a land to go to their graveyard so they can play it again from their graveyard, just to get a land drop or a landfall trigger, what have you. So that's a cool card. And of course, this being the white and green set, there's 4 multicolored cards. All 4 of them are white and green. One of them is Hunting Grounds. It's literally a 2 mana do nothing enchantment. So green, white does nothing. But if you have Threshold, whenever an opponent casts a spell, you may put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. That's a pretty powerful effect. But remember, you do need Threshold. I've seen this card, I think, work one time ever. You want to drop it early, and then it just gets destroyed because nobody wants that effect to happen, so they'll just destroy it before you have Threshold. I've seen it happen where maybe it got flashed in at instant speed in a Bant deck off of a Leyline of Anticipation, and somebody cast a spell, and then whoever put a card onto the battlefield. Like, I've never seen it work. It sounds cool, but I don't think I would recommend people playing it. I would, though, recommend people playing Mirari's Wake. This is the original set that it was printed in Judgment. And this is an enchantment for white, green 3. Creatures you control get +1/+1. Don't forget about that. I always forget about that part because it also does, whenever you tap a land for mana, you add an additional one of the same type that land produced. So it's a mana doubler. And that is, I think, in Commander what makes it powerful. But when you've got a board with 4 or 5 beaters on it and all of a sudden all of them are 1 bigger, that's like, could be a bunch more damage if you're playing a token deck, or if you're just +1/+1 is just good. So don't forget about that one. Mirari's Wake, obviously an extremely powerful card, pretty pricey. The foils from Judgment are really, really expensive. It was reprinted, I think, in Commander 2017 and Commander's Arsenal in 2012. It was a Pro Tour card, and it was in a World Champ deck with gold borders. So you can get this card. It's about $18 Foils are, 30 something bucks. The Judgment one the foils of that one are probably lots. They're like $70 or something. So last up, we've got 3 lands. They're all white and green centric, non-basic. So the first one, Krosan Verge. ETB's tapped, gives you colorless, and you can pay 2 and sacrifice it. Search for a forest card and a plains card. And they don't say basics there. You can search for, say, a tropical island and get blue and a forest card. You could search for a scrub land, get your plains, but also get black mana, for just as an example. You could do the same with the cycling ones from Amonkhet or the shock lands. Those are a little bit more affordable versions of the duels. Of course, they don't have to be original duels like in my example. Nantuco Monastery's next taps for colorless, but if you have Threshold, you can go green, white, and you can turn it into a 4/4 green and white creature with first strike. So it's a creature land if you have Threshold. If you want creature lands, if that's your deck, this could be your card. And then, of course, the final one, Riftstone Portal, taps for colorless, but if it's in your graveyard, lands you control have the ability to tap for green or white. Cool card that helps fix land. Maybe 3 or 4 color decks want to play this. Decks that have the ability to get lands into their graveyard as a means to fix on a budget. That's a cool card. That's Rift Stone Portal. And that's Judgment. Lots of cool stuff. I know I kind of glossed over red. I kind of glossed over blue. There are cool cards in both of those colors. Of course, I would encourage anybody to check out Judgment or all of Odyssey block. That includes Torment as well. That's a cool block, cool point in Magic's history. Lots of experimentation happening with abilities, lots of powerful stuff, what have you, and lots of fun. If you want to pick any up, of course, you can head over to fusiongamingonline.com for all of your Odyssey needs. They are the official sponsors of Commander Ad Populum, and I very much appreciate working with those guys. Huge thank you to all of the Patreon supporters. You make it all possible. Patreon.com/CADPopcast if you wanted to help the show grow, keep the lights on, or whatever the preferred slogan is. If Patreon isn't quite right for you, of course, share the show with friends. Start up a conversation and tell me about it. Maybe it's something that I can cover on the show. And of course, check Twitter and Facebook for the CAD Pop Community Spotlight, where I am going to be calling out a few members of the community to help me raise the ground floor. Let's hold each other accountable. Let's encourage each other. Let's demonstrate the things that we're good at in case we can help other people, all in this whole big process that we're going to start to find ourselves involved in. So with that has been episode 44. Thanks for being here, everybody. I will see you next Wednesday.